Hello there, everyone. Welcome to the Real Life Process Podcast. My name is Teresa McCloy, and I am so excited that you're here. Each and every week on the podcast, we invite you to listen in as we share stories, practical tips, and action steps that will lead you to live your life from a place of rest, not rush, and really do what matters. So we share ideas mostly from our signature content called the Real Life Process. And in that signature content, it's a framework that helps you develop a unique modern day rule of life around 90-day projects, time management, action steps, sustainability, and spiritual practices. And we love helping you to live your best life and do your best work. So whether you're here for life, whether you're here for work, we're just glad you're here and that you're listening in and being a part of the Real Life Process community. So on today's podcast, we're actually going to talk about the word procrastination and about what might be happening for you. Are you a pro at procrastination? And if you're listening in on our YouTube channel or watching on our YouTube channel, I'm actually going to bring it up on the screen. You're going to be able to see the list of these 4 things that we're talking about, and even the word procrastination and an image around that. But if you're not, just grab a pen and paper, take some good notes, talk it into your phone, whatever you need to do to capture these 4 things so you can go back and look at them later around this idea of procrastination. There's lots of ways that we could talk about this. So this is just 4 things that I've come up with, which might be ways that you're procrastinating. I actually got into this content and got to thinking about this through listening to kind of one of my mentors, Brendan Burchard, and some content that he had put out in an app that he has called Growth Day. I really love that app. You can find out more about that in the show notes. But he was talking about procrastination, and it got me thinking as well. So I did some research, and Joseph Ferrari, a professor at DePaul University, he's an author of a book called Still Procrastinating, the No Regret Guide to Getting Things Done. He says in his study of this, his wife was a procrastinator, as he describes, and he said in his study of this that about 20% of adults are chronic procrastinators. Now, I don't know if you would identify yourself as a chronic procrastinator or not, but we want to talk about what might be causing some of our procrastination today. And so let me start. I'm going to bring this up and we're going to talk through what procrastination is. And I have this little word chart that I'm showing on the YouTube channel, but I'm going to talk through it. That procrastination for many of us brings up things like anxiety, feelings of laziness, not meeting deadlines, that we're under stress, that we feel like we're not productive enough, that we become irrational even when we get into this mode of procrastination. We feel like we've failed, that we've postponed things that are important to us. So it brings up all kinds of things for us. And I think there's some reasons why we might be procrastinating. So I want to walk through those with you today here on the podcast. So the first one is, I think we procrastinate when we have not identified what our real priorities are, when we've not really put out there and identified the things that matter. We have a new book coming out in just the next 6 to 8 weeks here around the 1st of November. The title of the book is Do What Matters. And it's because as we identify this, it helps us not be as scattered and jump from one thing to the next. What happens is we end up saying yes to too many things. There are so many things that could be important in our lives that could feel like priorities. But until we really pause and slow down, get connected to our needs, our values, who we are and whose we are, and how we're going to live out our life, then we don't feel like we're always procrastinating on something that's important. I'll give you an example. I could be asked to volunteer here locally in my small community for a cause, and it might really even connect to one of my values of generosity. Love to be generous with my time, financially when I can be, all of those types of things. So I could be asked to volunteer, and it would be very easy sometimes to say yes to those asks. But because I know what my priorities are, what we call here at the Real Life Process an area of focus, 6 to 7 key things that in this season of my life really matter and probably will matter for the next year or two. These will be the big rocks, the things that matter to me. I have to look at those asks and say, does this fit? Is it a part of what I want to do? Does it align with one of these areas of focus? Because if I say yes to that, if I say yes to volunteering, which I would love to do for that particular cause, then something else is going to have to be said no to. And when I say no to that thing, I can feel like I'm procrastinating on it. When I'm really not procrastinating, I've just chosen to say yes to one thing and then another thing and another thing. And the things that I really feel deep within me, internally, that I wanted to say yes to, feel like I'm procrastinating, which causes this cycle of stress and anxiety and not doing it well, those words that we talked about that I showed there on the screen. And that can make us feel like we're procrastinating when we've just not done the time of setting down and saying, these are the things for the next year to 18 months to 2 years in this season of my life. These are the 5 to 6 to 7 things that matter to me. For me right now, a couple of those things are my extended family, which means my husband's mother-in-law, my parents, my daughter, those types of things, my extended family, and helping to take care of them, even the seasons of life that they're in. And also my business right now, as it is growing, and you may have a growing business as well. Now, that doesn't mean 2 years from now, I might make a different decision about volunteering in that space, or maybe within the next year, I would have more capacity. But I don't want to feel like I'm procrastinating and putting off the things that really matter to me. And so I have to decide, and discern is a word that we love here at the process. What are the big rocks? So that might be the first thing, is you've just not identified your priorities. So there's lots of things in your life and lots of things coming at you. So everything feels like a procrastination, that you're putting it off for later. The next thing that I think can be a reason why we procrastinate is that you don't have a map to follow. So the beginning of that map is identifying those priorities. That's the first step in that. But then it's saying, okay, if that thing matters to me, what do I want to be doing around that thing? What are ways I want to grow in that area of my business? What are ways that I want to grow in being present to my own self-care? What are ways I want to grow with my family? All these big rocks, these areas of focus, if we don't have some maps around those, if we don't have some identifying statements around those, then we just feel like, what should I be doing? Well, I should do this, I should do that. And we don't have a map to follow. Now, there's lots of different ways we could map this out. I love to use the mind map. I've talked about that in previous episodes, kind of dumping out all the things I could do and then deciding for the next 90 days, these are the things I'm going to do. That's the process that we use and that we teach, part of our signature content. You could use things like Brenda Burchard calls the Friday finishers. What things do I want to get done by Friday? And rather than beating ourselves up every day for what we didn't get done yet, we know that this is what we want to finish by Friday. So we put it into bite-sized pieces and we do a little bit of it every day. And then we're done with it by Friday. So it's looking at those actionable steps we can take and breaking them down. One of the things too here, I think, is we do have to look at our time. And many times when we go into procrastination, we're doing things like scrolling on social media. And all of a sudden, an hour to an hour and a half has gone by. And we've used that as a way to distract ourselves from something small that we needed to do that might have taken 15 or 20 minutes. And so how can we make that little list of things, actionable steps, some tasks that we need to do, and put them into some blocks of time so that we can bite it off in bite-sized pieces to get it done? We pre-decide, as we often say here at The Process, pre-decide what you want to do. Once you've made the decision, your brain has used up that energy and you can move into the task. By the end of today, I knew that I wanted to record this podcast. I usually record a podcast on Wednesdays for the following week or two. And so I just always know that I'm going to slot out about an hour to work on the podcast, get the content together, and push it out. So I've pre-decided. I don't have to procrastinate as to when am I going to do it, how am I going to do it. Once I know, I kind of had a set time that I always record the podcast. Now I can move that around throughout the Wednesday, but I try to keep it on Wednesday, pre-decide. The more that we can put pre-decisions in, the less that we procrastinate, because it comes like a habit and a rhythm and a routine. I talk about that all the time here on the podcast. So if you don't have a map to follow, it's pretty easy to procrastinate. A big map, what are my areas? What do I want to move forward with? And then that small map of the week. And so many ways that you can do that. But I encourage you to try to map it out just a little bit. The third reason I think we can procrastinate of the four is that we fear change. You might be fearing change. Many times we procrastinate to avoid being judged by others. If I change something, if I really make a major change in my life, now I'm talking some big things. If I decide to take a new job or to move forward in something in a relationship, or to make a big decision around something financially, or make a big move, what will others think of me? And that fear can help us procrastinate on things so much we get stuck and we don't move forward and we start spinning in my head. We continue the same pattern of behavior over and over and the same decision, and it just ruminates for fear of change, for fear of what others might think of me if I change. Maybe there's something even in your family story that you're like, gosh, I don't want to be like that. I want to change generationally what has happened in my story. And that's a fear and you might put it off. You might keep setting it aside. Many times we talk about procrastination as something little and a task that we don't want to do, but I think we can procrastinate around major life changes or major business and professional changes just as much. I'll give you an example. When I was first starting the business, and I really felt that coaching was the direction that I wanted to go, that helping others in personal and self-development and creating these rules of life and really leaning in, and I was starting to develop out the real life process. I knew that social media was one way that I could do that. I knew that live video was a way that I could do that, just like I'm doing on the YouTube channel as I'm recording this podcast. I had great fear out of doing that, out of putting myself out into the world. What would my family think of me? What would others think of me? How would I be judged? Many times when we're starting something new, we lean into fear and judgment that others might have of us. And it was holding me back of taking the next step. And I just had to get the courage to start doing it. Start breaking the mold. Again, giving myself a time to do it every week, or, starting the podcast and just starting recording and knowing that at the time the podcast started, no one was listening anyway. So it was okay to lean in and to just begin. But I think what really helped me stop procrastinating on that fear of change was also the fourth reason. And the fourth reason is this: I didn't have enough community around me. So I was procrastinating because I didn't have any accountability. I didn't have any community there with me, and I needed to find my community. Community is a huge word for me personally, and it's huge as part of the community that we have of facilitators that facilitate the process, are part of our network. We love building community, and I am a part of community. I have a mastermind, a couple of those that I am in, and they are my network and community. They're the people I go to help me, hold me accountable of things that I say that I'm going to do. I learn from them. I grow through them. And through that learning and growth, my procrastination, my putting off of things that I know will carry my life and my business forward are less and less all the time. So whether you want to move forward in business or in your relationships or learning a new skill or anything that you can imagine, doing it in community is so important to help you not be a pro at procrastination. So let's go back through what these 4 reasons that you might be procrastinating are. Number 1 is you may not have identified your big rocks, your real priorities yet. And that may be something that you need to do. You don't have that map. Now that you have the priorities, you haven't mapped that out and thought, here's a thing, here's a thing, here's a thing, here's action steps I can take to move me forward. Here's the things I want to finish by Friday, as Brendan Burchard says. Maybe you're really stuck in the fear of change. And so you procrastinate and put off the big thing that God has for you to do, the big thing that you know is your moment to shine. And you're putting that off because of fear of the change and what that might bring into your life. And maybe you're procrastinating because you don't have enough community. You don't have enough people around you encouraging you and that you're learning from your peers and maybe those that are right in front of you in a season of life or in a place in their business, and you want to learn and you want to grow with them. So as you're thinking about letting go of being a pro at procrastination, we'd love for you to come and connect with us, because we love helping people in these places. If you're not connect with us on Facebook at our Real Life Process community, love for you to come over and join that community. And we even ask you on there, like, how's ways that we can help you be more productive? How's ways that we can help you break out of this procrastination place? This is a word that we hear so much. So we want to help you break the cycle of procrastination. One of the ways you can do that is to download our free Intro to Needs and Values assessment. Discover what your needs are, what your values are, so that you can really move forward around the things. And especially that number 3, that fear of change. You can see this is how I'm wired. And so I want to lean into those things. I don't want to stay stuck in putting something off that I'm supposed to do in my life. So Needs and Values assessment, you can find that at thereallifeprocess.com. Remember, we spell real life with 1 L. Or if you're interested in knowing more about our certified facilitator program, you can check that out there on the website as well. We're always looking for people who want to help others and bring this work into the world. We're so excited as our book comes out this fall. And if that is something that you would be interested in knowing more about, you can check that out over on the website as well. So make sure you subscribe to the podcast and to the YouTube channel. Sometimes I share graphics or different things or lists or things like that on the YouTube channel. And so you can always check that out. We'd love for you to subscribe there. It's a brand new platform for us that we're building, and we'd love for you to share that out. So download the free intro, join us in the Facebook community, check us out on YouTube, and remember that every ordinary day has an extraordinary moment. You just have to look for them. And we'll be back next week with more from the Real Life Process podcast.